Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media, all the disinformation and misinformation. We want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening, and as this awakening is happening, people realize they're being deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Yes, welcome to Total Truth Show, episode 84, The Truth About Fire Ants. This is going to be a hot one today. Now, for those who don't know, the federal government has rolled out a $1.2 billion fire ant eradication program across Australia. And right now, Southeast Queensland is the dumping ground of these poisons. We're going to deep dive today with our special guest, Sarah. Great to see you, Sarah. We'll introduce her in just a minute. And, of course, my co-host, Ken Kleinberg from San Diego. How are you going, Ken?
Doing good. How about you?
Excellent. Thank you. Excellento.
Awesome.
Now, Sarah and I met recently as we were doing an event with Lynn Sutherland, local filmmaker here on the Gold Coast, called Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program. And we were raising funds for Save the Bees Australia. And that's where we came across Sarah, who has had some experience with this toxic fire ant eradication program the government is rolling out. So what they've been doing is they're actually spraying from helicopters. They're distributing this poison over big blocks of land in southeast Queensland, going from north of Brisbane out to the Lockyer Valley, down to the Tweed area. They're also turning up with fire ant teams to people's properties, and they are saying that it's mandatory to put this poison in your yard, and people's dogs, cats, birds, bees, lizards, frogs have been dying, absolutely horrible, horses, cows, etc. And then they're sending this poison also to people's properties as well. And this is actually killing all fire ants, which is all fire ants. Well, it's killing all ants, right? Which is actually one of the biggest things to stop fire ants is actually other ants. So there's a lot of issues with this whole program. The government's also putting $10 million into the advertising campaign to promote this, so into the propaganda machine through the media as well, which is another big concern. So Sarah is a Samford Valley resident, and she actually filmed helicopters dumping pesticides in the river. Now, with the poison, it actually says on this container, it says extremely toxic to water life. Okay, it should not be going to the waterways, and yet the poison's been going directly into the waterways. So Sarah, welcome to the show. Can't wait to hear more of your story today.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on. So how long ago did you see these helicopters flying over the Samford Valley and putting this poison in the waterways?
So it was the 26th of May. I remember it really well because it was a Sunday morning. I woke up and I could just hear these helicopters just swooping all around the valley where I live. And where I live is what they call it, peri-urban or rural. There's a lot of houses here, but there's also a lot of acreage properties, and nobody even knew what was going on, especially if you didn't live on one of the bigger acreage blocks. We just saw these helicopters just going all over the hills, because we're in this valley surrounded by forests, and these helicopters were just swooping backwards and forwards. And I had a friend who lives on 40 acres, and she said, you got to see what's going on here. So I went to her property, and she was filming the helicopter flying all the way over the South Pine River, which is on the edge of her property. And you could see this stuff just spraying at, like, falling out of it. I mean, we didn't know what it was at the time, but it was these tiny corn grit granules that, you know, are soaked in poisonous pesticides. And so we also then heard another local said, hey, they're dumping it all in one of the creeks as well. And there was all these houses down the edge of the creek, and it was all on their roofs. And so me and this lady and another guy, we went up to the creek. First of all, went to the creek. It was called Dawson Creek. And you could just see these yellow bits of corn grit everywhere. It was all over the rocks. It was in the water. We just couldn't believe it. So we got some jars and collected samples. And we knew a local independent water tester called Glorious Water, and he was able to take samples for us. But my friend said, oh, you know, it's gone into the South Pine River. Let's go and look there as well. So we scrambled under barbed wire fences and down embankments. And again, it was all in the river. And it had been raining that afternoon as well. And this stuff should never be put out when it's raining. So we got water samples from the South Pine River as well, sent them off for testing. And within 4 days after that, the National Fire Ant Programme had arranged a community engagement meeting. So they came to Sanford, and about 180 people were there. And at the start of the meeting, the head of operations said, hey, we're sorry, Sanford, we dropped the wrong chemicals in your creek. We used the wrong chemicals that should never go into water. But our pilot made a mistake. He didn't know there was a running waterway. And I said, well, what about the South Pine River? You know, how could you not know that's our main waterway going through Sanford? And he said, oh, I don't know anything about that one. And to date, they still haven't admitted they put chemicals in the South Pine River. And the last I heard when I spoke to the programme is they're now accusing residents of putting those chemicals there, which is unbelievable.
Wow. This is crazy. Now,
so then we got the water test results after that meeting about a week later, and they came back with alarmingly high levels of pyriproxyfen in the waterway. And the guy who did the water test for us, Dr. Washington Sanchez, said this is a serious contamination event. This has long-lasting effects on our aquatic life. We might not see the effects of it for years because it's basically a sterilizing chemical and makes insects and things infertile. So yeah, we were pretty shocked. So the levels of pyriproxyfen in our waterways was 81 micrograms per litre, and the maximum reading it should ever be is 0.04. So it was really, and the same with South Pine River. It was 3.3, which it should have only been 0.04 at the maximum. So, and it had rained that afternoon, so that was quite diluted. Yeah.
And you know, this corn grit, it actually looks like food, and it breaks down into tiny little particles. And so you can see why birds would want to eat it, why fish would want to eat it. You know, you can see that it will have massive damaging effects. And we've known of people who've had their dogs die, that have had birds come to eat the poison off the backyard, and the next day they're all dead. So we've heard about this kind of stuff. Now some dogs may not be poisoned as badly as other dogs, depending how much they actually consume of the poison. But the fact is, the big issue here is that they are blanket putting this poison everywhere. And of course, if they do it from helicopters, it's killing organic food. Now, I just saw Food Inc. It's a free documentary online. Check it out. Food Inc. It actually came out a little while ago, and it talks about Monsanto and how they patented seeds, and how corn is such a massive industry in America, and how they're killing the farmers in America with this genetically modified seed. And so it's interesting that this is corn grit that we now have right across Australia. You've got to ask the question, who is making money from this? Who is profiting from this? When we know that fire ants can be killed with hot water treatments or diatomaceous earth, or there's other natural ways to kill fire ants, whereas this here is killing all ants. And I've just done a bit of research. There's actually 1,275 Australian ant species, 1,275, and 15,000 different species of ants worldwide. And most of the Australian ant species are only found in Australia. So this poison is not just going to kill the fire ants or some fire ants, it's actually going to kill all ants. And the problem is also is that the queen ant is actually can fly a fair while away, 5 kilometres or something. Is that correct, Sarah? Do you know about the details around that?
It can fly up to a maximum of 5 kilometres, but they're actually quite lazy, these ants. So I don't think they actually go that far, but they say if they find an ant's nest in any area now, they have to poison 5 kilometre radius from that nest, so every inch of land. But with this eradication program that they're doing, they're actually poisoning 850,000 hectares of southeast Queensland and working from the outside in. So at the moment, we're in the 10 kilometre band surrounding Brisbane, when we don't even have fire ants here. I've never seen a fire ant in my life until a couple of weeks ago when I went to Logan, which is heavily infested. And I went to help treat some nests with this new hot water machine that has just been built in Australia. One of the guys I'm working with on this campaign, he's called Trevor Hold. He's been significantly affected he's had a couple of calves that have died as a result of what we believe is the poisoning. And so he's now looking at ways to help stop this program poisoning so much land. So he's actually built the first ever hot water machine in Australia that's been based off a patented design from a top professor in the USA called Dr. Joshua King, who just said, this whole program is crazy. You cannot prophylactically treat that much land and expect to have no consequences on the environment and the wildlife and the insects. And so, yeah, like I said, I've lived in Australia for over 20 years. I'd never even seen a fire ant until I actually went looking for one in Logan, and that's a long way away from where I live. But yeah, they've now justified this preventative treatment, which is a mandated treatment or poisoning of every inch of land over 2 million acres. So it's, and what we're saying about it kills native ants is they did a study because we wanted to say, well, where's the environmental impact assessments to show that what you're doing isn't going to cause more harm than good? And all they can point you to is this pathetic study done in 2001. It was done in 2001. It was looking at 60 blocks of land where they were poisoning every inch of that block of land. And they were checking whether the native ants repopulated, because it was killing the native ants and the fire ants. And what they said is, oh, yeah, it killed the fire ants, but the native ants repopulated. But guess what? The size of those properties were only 532 square meters large. You know, they were small properties. And so how can you justify that all the native ants will return when you're killing every single ant in 850,000 hectares? That's very different to 532 square meters of property. Of course, the ants will repopulate. They come in from the outside again. But in this program, if they're sweeping every ant on the way in, I'm like, where's the native ants going to come from? You know, like Toowoomba? And that's their only way of trying to give us any reassurance that they're not causing harm. But they seem so hell-bent on telling us how scary and bad fire ants are, and making everyone so frightened to even think, oh, I can't have a fire ant near me, it's going to kill me. Whereas the reality is they live with them in Texas. They live with them. They've been living them for years in Logan. This property I went to had over 400 nests on one property in their paddocks. I mean, I was walking around with, open-toed shoes on. I actually did get bitten by a couple of ants because, I accidentally, walked on a nest and it had been disrupted. And they can swarm, but honestly, you just flick them off, and the bites I sustained was like, they didn't even react as bad as mozzie bites. Like they say that you're going to get pustules and you're going to react and you're going to die. Really, very rarely would anyone die. I mean, if you're anaphylactic to bee stings, yeah, you might die from fire ants, but in this day and age, we also have anti-venoms and therapy. So more people, I think, die from Jack Jumper ants than they have from, and to put it into, people need to put this into perspective. They're an ant at the end of the day. They don't go up the trees. They don't, they live in the ground. You manage them, but they're not this deadly creature that's going to come for you and come for your family. That's what the program's trying to tell us. That community meeting in Sanford, we had one of their top scientists working for the program say, if you poke it with a stick, those ants are coming up that stick. They're coming for you. They're coming for your family. And I just laughed and I went, that's the most unscientific thing a scientist could say.
All it sounds like is fear porn. That's all it sounds like.
It is. It's propaganda. They put out, when they do these meetings, they keep this image up on the screen of this baby that's been bitten. This baby looks like it's from South America or something. And I'm like thinking, who puts a baby on a fire ant's nest? But, and they keep this.
Well, here's the thing you have to be careful with images that they put out there because the media in general, they've already been found guilty of falsifying images and videos of war and different things like that. Different recent wars that have gone on, like a little bit about Israel, a little bit on Ukraine and different things like that. Don't get me wrong. There are some good things that came about what was going on in Ukraine. But the thing of it is the media was painting it out to be something it wasn't. And they actually got caught using images and videos from video games trying to make it out to be a really bad war. So you have to be careful what you're believing. So the baby put on I'll bet you that was either CGI or computer generated image, or it was an image for a long time ago or something like that. So and as far as I'm concerned, they're just doing it to create the fear porn. It's 2020 all over again with that. It's just like they put that lovely death counter on the screen to make you fear and all this other stuff. Blah, it just
they're just scaring people into accepting this ridiculous notion that we can eradicate ants. And that's what I'm trying to educate people on. We cannot eradicate these ants. They've been in the country for 30 years. Even back when they found them in 2001, they were already on 40,000 hectares of land then. And the most successful eradications only ever being done on 8,000 hectares. And now we're talking 850,000. This country is crazy to think it can eradicate ants. No other country's been able to get rid of these creatures. They just learn to adapt and live with them. And that's what we need to do. We need to empower people to just, deal with the ants when they turn up. And the problem is in this country, people haven't even been allowed to treat these ants themselves. They've been told, if you get a fire ant nest, you've got to call the government, and the government comes to help you out. So they've led people to feel helpless that, we need the government to help us deal with these ants. Whereas, like you say, you just need a boiling kettle of water. And if you put it on the nest at a certain time of day when the queen is near the top, you're going to kill that queen and get rid of the nest. They're trying to make out that, something like 38% of mammals are going to be affected if these ants take over. That is absolutely ridiculous. The propaganda that's coming out of this program is just insane.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's I've seen it, over and over and over again. They do this again. And honestly, fire ants have been around for years and years, decades, thousands, hundreds. They've been around. People have lived with fire ants. It's like I said, it's 2020 all over again, because I feel like people's logic has gone out the window. It's like these fire ants all of a sudden didn't appear out of anywhere, out of nowhere. They've always been there. They've always existed, and humans have always dealt with them. And it's just like, I had fire ants on my property up in Temecula. I just avoided them. They're part of nature, and they do their thing. They might be a little bit of a nuisance sometimes, but it's like, geez. So it's like, telling people that they're going to walk up a stick and attack you and come after you and all this other stuff. It just sounds, it's all propaganda. It's all something that it's literally sounds like something that they have created to give an excuse to poison the land. That's all it sounds like to me. Because if I'm sitting here thinking logically, like I said, fire ants have been around for thousands of years.
Yeah. So yeah, we've noticed as well that they are poisoning all the organic farms as well. They're saying there's no exceptions, no property will be exempt from this poisoning program. And so we now have organic farmers going, my produce is for international export. So when we did some research on it, we found that the program must have talked to the organic certification authorities who dish out whether things are organic. And they changed the withholding period of when they can put these chemicals on the vegetables and produce before harvesting. And prior to this fire ant program, it used to be 12 months. You could not touch these organic products with these chemicals. And then during this new prophylactic, program, they changed it to just 3 weeks. So you can put these chemicals on an organic farm just 3 weeks from harvesting those vegetables. And in Australia, we can call them organic. International organic standard says, no way, we don't want, you cannot call this organic because it's not. Whereas in Australia, we're supposed to now eat this food that's, poisoned, in my opinion. These chemicals are endocrine disruptors. So they mess with estrogen and, we even had another doctor call them estrogen analogs. So you really don't want pregnant women eating these chemicals. You don't want our children being exposed to these chemicals. And they're putting them all in our waterways. And even the other chemical that they're allowed to put in our waterways, which is the one they put on the organic farms, that is still not a good chemical. It's still toxic. It still makes the ants infertile. So I don't know what it's doing to us with the quantities they're putting down now. I mean, it's one thing to treat a nest over here or a nest over there, but they're literally carpet bombing everywhere.
I definitely would bet money on the fact that there's an agenda behind all the spraying of this that they're doing around estrogen and testosterone. I mean, already estrogen and testosterone is under attack. It's under attack in the foods we eat. It's under attack with the dyes that are in foods. It's under attack in so many different ways. And it's especially under attack. The other thing I wrote down that I wanted to talk about is it's under attack with these genetically modified crops that they do all the time. As a matter of fact, I want to read from, it's a portion of my boot camp, actually, and it's a quote from an article. And I think this says volumes. So scientists, this is the quote, scientists have been warning that the planet is approaching an era of mass extinction, and the pesticides and farming practices associated with genetically engineered crops like soy used in fake burgers is at the heart of the problem. A study published in the journal Biological Conservation estimated that 40% of the insect species on Earth right now are facing extinction. And the entire insect population could well collapse by the end of the century thanks to genetically engineered crops and related practices and chemicals. Honestly, let me widen this picture a little bit. Pretty much 95% of corn, pretty much 95% of soy out there on the market today is made in a lab, is from bioengineered crops. And in these bioengineered crops, they're also heavily sprayed with glyphosate, known as Roundup weed killer. And this is then going into our food, and it's then being consumed, and especially like in today, a lot of oats, a lot of granola, if you will. First of all, I don't buy into oats and granola as being some healthy thing. I follow a lot of health coaches on Instagram, and I see them tout this stuff, and I'm going, no, all it is a freaking super carb, and you don't even need it. And on top of it, most of this stuff is genetically engineered and genetically modified, and the crops are sprayed heavily with glyphosate. And that this is what a lot of people don't know. And so it's and then you have our leaders that are out there touting, the climate change and this and that, and then attacking our cows like our cows are responsible for the climate change and everything else. No, it actually is them. They're responsible for the damage that's going on in our environment right now, not us, and it's not the cows. And, this whole pesticide thing that they're doing over there in your place, I think it's all part of the same agenda. They literally do, and now I'm speaking quite bluntly here, they do want human beings infertile, because their overall agenda is depopulation. And so, as far as I'm concerned, this all fits right in that agenda, and it just seems like it's an excuse to poison humans.
Absolutely, and it's controlling the food supply as well.
Yes,
it feels
exactly.
That way. But can I point out as well, you were talking about soy and corn. Well, that's the two ingredients that's also in these pesticides that they're using. It's corn grit that's from America. Cargill's, I believe, is the supplier, and we think that would most definitely be genetically modified. We've got people doing research into that. And also, it's soaked in soybean oil, which then they put the pesticides into the soybean oil. So you've got these corn grits soaked in soybean oil, probably genetically modified as well. And then that is just going all into our soil, all into our waterways.
Not probably. It's not probably. It is. Just, it's not probably. I wouldn't even say that word.
Yeah, and then you've got the birds eating it. You've got the insects, other insects eating it. I mean, when we went to the creek that day, you could see all these oil slicks just floating on the top of the water. I'd never seen the creek look so disgusting. And, my kids swim in those creeks, and there was all these oil slicks. We were monitoring that creek for a week afterwards to see what the damage had been done. And a week later, there was no insect life there whatsoever. There was none of those little pond skaters. There was loads of dead moths just everywhere. There was dead bees. There was a sick little water dragon. It could barely move. And we were like, oh my gosh, this creek is normally so full of beautiful insects and wildlife, and there was nothing there. It was dead as. And we even took Malcolm Roberts, one of the senators. He came to visit us in Sanford and hosted a town forum. He's the only politician that was willing to take notice of our concerns. And we showed him that creek, and he saw it with his own eyes that it was dead. There was nothing. It just didn't look good at all. And he's now taken this to Senate estimates and has been questioning what's going on. But and I'm in regular contact with his legal counsel on what's going on. But this program really has to stop soon, because they're just plowing ahead. We managed to get the choppers and the people, they left Sanford alone for about 6 months because we got the positive water tests, and they had to report themselves to the Department of Environment, DESI, and they had to get all sorts of reviews done. But they haven't even told us what they've done to give us any reassurance that they're not going to do it again. I mean, they said they won't use pyriproxyfen anymore, which was the chemical they put in the water, which is in that container that you've got, Aldwyn. But they said they'll use S-methoprene, but that is not any better. Yeah, they're both really bad, and you just don't want them in your water. You don't want them. I don't want them on my property. I don't actually use any pesticides on my property. I should have the right to keep my property pesticide free. And this program is using the Biosecurity Act 2014 to totally trample on my human rights to live, in my own home the way I choose to live. And this is where I have a problem. I have a big problem with any program that wants to force its way onto my property and put poisons everywhere. I'm not going to tolerate it. I've done enough research. I've read all the studies that shows just how bad these chemicals are. I'm actually a chartered accountant, so I know how to analyze data and look at numbers. And you do not want these chemicals on every inch of land where you've got your kids playing, where you've got your pets. And them trying to say, they're actually even trying to tell us it's not a poison. This is how they're playing with words. It's like double speak. I feel like we've gone into George Orwell's 1984. This poison is not a poison. And people are believing it. They're going, oh, it's not a poison. It's an insect growth regulator. It's like, yeah, but it materially affects an organism. It makes it infertile. Under the definition in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, anything that amends an organism in any way structurally is a poison. So they're trying to, like, you know, tell people it's not poison, whereas it is.
Yes, it's more smoke and mirrors. And I actually have here the letter that Dr. Joshua King, back to what he was saying, the letter here from, now he works at the biology department at the University of Central Florida. He's been studying fire ants since 1999. Okay, so a long time, because he said also there was something similar happening in America and it was totally useless, a complete waste. And in this report, very interesting, it says here his concerns about the excessive, potentially harmful over-application of toxic baits. He says, underlying the entire eradication program as currently being carried out seems to be the assumption that eradication is feasible and ultimately justifies the methods being used to attempt to eradicate and prevent further invasion of Australia by the fire ant. He says it's very important to note that in the face of ongoing introductions, no eradication program has ever succeeded in preventing fire ant establishment and spread over larger areas and longer time spans. This is not anecdotal, but has unfortunately been repeatedly demonstrated. The clearest example, he says, is of the successful invasion of the southern US in the face of one of the largest invasive insect eradication programs in history. Ultimately, the attempts at eradication and prevention of further invasions by fire ants have not only failed, but the very actions taken to eliminate the fire ant ultimately has hastened its establishment and spread. So not only is this not effective, but this is actually going to increase the spread of the fire ant. And look, I've lived here 50 years and I've never even seen a fire ant. I've never had any issues with fire ants. And people who I know have been bitten by fire ants, it's not even an issue. This is the pandemic all over again. And people are now saying, look, if they say it's safe and they're mandating it, people are now starting to question it. So now the next question is, what can we do knowing this is a complete farce, knowing that it is more smoke and mirrors and that they're trying to hoodwink the Australian population, and many people are going to believe it because many people believed the propaganda during the pandemic as well, didn't they? And what happened? People died, people got sick, suddenly heart attacks everywhere. Well, now they're starting to wake up, right? Some of them are starting to wake up, and some will never wake up no matter what you say, because we've been brought up to trust the government. We've been brought up to trust authorities. We are programmed and brainwashed without realizing that we're programmed and brainwashed, right? And watch the Out of Shadows documentary if you want to know what I'm talking about here, okay? And we've got it in our Conscious Community Global Facebook group, which you'll find at my link tree. We'll share some links at the end. But get informed, get empowered, and it's fantastic you've set up, Sarah, with Simon from Save the Bees Australia. I can see he's just joined us on Instagram. Hey, Simon, good to see you. We've got Robert Muller's joined us on Instagram, says hello. We've got White Frenchie Bella, Guarded Body, Natalie King, good to see you. And those joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, wherever you're joining us right now, welcome to the show. We would love to hear from you as well. What empowering tips can you give us on how we can get informed, get empowered? So now you did Stop the Toxic Fire Ant program Facebook group. So can you let us know, Sarah, what's in that group? How can people get empowered on this?
Yeah, well, at the start of this, when I first found out what was happening, I contacted Save the Bees and connected with Simon, because I saw that he'd already started posting about his concerns with the bees. And I heard him also speak at the Senate inquiry that was at the start of the year. And so he said, let's set up a Facebook group. And so this Facebook group was called Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program. And we got like 5,000 members now in that Facebook group alone. In the files section of that Facebook group, there's a lot of useful resources in terms of the questionnaires that you can give to the program to try to keep them from coming on your property. We've got emails that people can send to stop the aerial baiting, because under CASA regulations, you can stop low-flying aircraft on your property. So we've encouraged a lot of people to do that, and it seems to have worked. We've set up the website as well. We now have a website called stopthetoxicfireantprogram.org, which we're still tidying up a bit, but it also has a lot of resources there. We're encouraged to put up signs, especially no trespass signs. I've got one behind me. It has a lot of legal cases on it that says, do not trespass, otherwise, you could be fined $1 million. We also encourage people to buy these other signs I've got here. They're like no poison zone signs, and that takes people to our group as well. But actually, these signs actually seem to have been working lately. We had a lady said she gave us a copy of the brochure that they'd left in her mailbox, and they said we couldn't treat this property because it had a sign saying no toxic fire ant treatment here. So we were quite happy with that one, because we had heard cases where they were jumping people's fences and going on and doing it when people weren't at home, which is just disgusting. Like I said, we got brochures that we've been running with Save the Bees as well. And there's a lot of information that people can get. The good thing that's about to happen, though, is we are setting up a proper incorporated association to collectively bring people together, and people can come and join and be a member. And then any legal challenges, we can do it as a group, as opposed to just one person like me trying to do an injunction, which could end up costing lots of money, which it is going to cost. It's going to cost at least $20,000 to get an injunction at this stage. But what we would like to do is offer people the chance to join a formal group, because at the moment, the Stop the Toxic Fire Ant group is just a Facebook page or a Facebook group. Whereas if we have an association that's incorporated, that's a legal body that can act on everyone's behalf. And so any legal representation can be done from everyone as a group. So if anyone is interested in that, please email me at stopthetoxicfireantprogram at gmail.com, because I'm interested to hear who would be interested in doing that with us.
Yeah, I think that's great. And the stickers are really good. The Toxic Fire Ant Program stickers as well. I've put some around my car. There they are. And Save the Bees have got some of those. So they can get those from, if they contact Save the Bees Australia, Instagram or Facebook, or where else can they get those stickers?
They can contact me. I think we've got them on the website, or we are trying to get the website to be more you can order on the website, but you can't pay at the moment, because that's why we need to sort out, the legal side of having a entity that represents us. So, but at the moment, you can pay Save the Bees and get these things, but you can order via myself as well on Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program at gmail.com. You can order through that.
Wonderful. And I've got the no trespass signs at my place. I think they're absolutely brilliant. And I have heard of them standing up in court too. So get informed, get empowered. I've also heard of these fire ant teams actually throwing the poison over people's fences and things like that as well, happening in the Currumbin area. We've had more and more people coming forward saying that their dogs or their animals have been sick or killed. We've had people like Lynn Sutherland, for example, the filmmaker that we did the event in Currumbin with recently. Her and her dog went into Currumbin Creek, and they both had diarrhea and got violently sick. And they've been swimming in that creek for years. And after the poisoning, they got very, very sick. So we're finding a lot of dogs also, they're getting diarrhea or they're getting sick around these areas. And, there's no coincidences here, right? This is absolutely, this is poisoning. This is Australian government poisoning Australia program using our money, right? Using our taxpayers' dollars, $1.2 billion. I mean, I can think of a lot better things to be doing with $1.2 billion than poisoning Australia and poisoning the animals and poisoning our food and poisoning the people, essentially, is what's happening. It is the depopulation agenda, I believe. And I think absolutely they want to control food supplies and they want to control the people. It's this whole one world government, and, you know, and it's like the whole digital ID is being rolled out even more now as well. So it's very interesting. And now that Trump's got in, let's see how things go over in America now as Trump has got in. Let's see what goes on with that. But really, you know, the thing is that you know, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And if people don't question this stuff, then don't complain if your animals die or if you suddenly get sick, because also when they're going over with helicopters, it's going into people's water tanks, which then they're drinking the water, and then, you know, inadvertently it is going to affect you and your family. You know, even for those who don't care about animals or don't care about the pollinators, well, without pollinators we've got no food either. And there's been literally attacks on the bees in Australia. We've heard of these people, and Simon has many stories where these people have been coming in and they're basically killing the ants and the bees, right? They're going through and they're just eradicating whatever they can that's going to be pollinating and going to be helping our food supplies. So it's about time that we stepped up, we spoke up, and we shared the message out so more and more people know. Because the way I look at it is not everyone's going to get what we're talking about here, right? And some people are going to go, oh, you're conspiracy theorists, whatever. Well, we know all the conspiracy theories have been coming true. And we know also that the term conspiracy theory was actually created by the CIA in the 1950s, that actual term, to knock anyone who spoke against the government. And we also know that government means mind control, right? Government means mind control. And so this is the thing, is that we need to wake up from our slumber and we need to go, right, maybe there's some truth in this. Maybe I'll do a little bit of research myself so that I can get informed and get empowered. Maybe I'll pop along to that Stop the Toxic Fire Ant group, or hop along to the website, stopthetoxicfireantprogram.org, and maybe I'll start to educate myself, because everyone we educate is going to tell 5 other people and then 5 other people. And we have power in numbers, right? Regardless of the enforcers that try to intimidate. There's only a smidgen of enforcers out there. There's millions of us, right? In fact, you know, how many we got? 8+ billion people in the world. How many enforcers would there be? You know, probably only 1,000 or something. Not many, right? Compared to the billions that we are. So we need to, I believe, realize how powerful we actually are as human beings when we come together as community and we make a stand against this kind of stuff, that we can create change. The David and Goliath battle, right? David won in the end. It is absolutely possible. And the biggest crime right now out there, I believe, is apathy. This is the biggest issue we have right now, is apathy with the Australian population. And interestingly, all the fireman teams, they're all work for the dole, right? They're all work for the dole people. They don't give a shit what they're, you know, they're just putting the shit everywhere. They're like, oh yeah, whatever, I just want my next packet. You know, like, they don't care for most of them. They don't care they're poisoning Australia. They're not even thinking about it. They're probably justifying in their head why this is a good thing. So
they're actually exploiting these people, in my opinion, because they're actually very vulnerable people. We've spoken to a number of people that work in that program, and they're desperate. They need a job, and they've said, we just want to earn a living and we can't get any other work. And so they are exploiting vulnerable people, forcing them into these dangerous working environments where they are being exposed to these chemicals on a daily basis. I've watched these guys. Some of them don't even wear gloves, and the safety data sheets say you must wear gloves. You must wash your hands. You must wash your clothes before you know, when you come home, you mustn't sit and eat your food. And they just sit there and they're all sat around eating their lunches. And, you know, you can see that they haven't even gone anywhere to wash their hands. And I've seen them all touching their faces after having their hands in it. I mean, I don't understand how they're not more sick, because those residents in Sanford, when we came together, there were so many people that had bad effects from those chemical dumps. One guy, all his eyes had gone red, and I had itchy skin myself. There were so many people with itchy skin, hives, feeling sick, respiratory illnesses, you know, like what other people as well, upset stomachs. So some people do react to these chemicals. We're not all the same. So for them to, and this is the funny thing, is they say it's safe and effective. It's like, where have we heard that before? It's safe and effective. everybody's going, oh, it's not a poison, it's safe and effective. And it's complete lies. And I've just gone on the radio and I've spoken to how I've spoken to you, just factually about what I've done, what I've found, what I've observed. And I've been viciously attacked as well by the ABC News here for speaking out, because I've done a number of speeches at different venues, and I spoke at a rally, and the ABC completely attacked me. They totally misrepresented what I was saying. They tried to make me look like I was some crazy. They called me an anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist. I've been accused of being an anti-vaxxer by the minister in charge of this program. And it's always to discredit what I'm saying, because they don't want me as a chartered accountant with a logical reason talking to people, because they don't want people to be persuaded that there is something wrong with it. So
interesting. The ABC. Now, the ABC is funded by the Australian government, which is pushing this program out. So, of course, they're going to attack it, right? And this is the thing. A lot of mainstream media is compromised. Now, I want to congratulate Channel 9 News. Now, they did a great story recently. In fact, they've done 2 stories now about this, showing the other side of the story. Now, while they said that, they've got to present a balanced story as much as possible, but generally speaking, the last Channel 9 story we had out, which was just about 2 weeks ago, it's had about nearly 19,000 views online, just the online story now, which is wonderful. People have been sharing the story, which is fantastic. Now, in there, they said that they had an independent researcher, and there's no name, no company name, that said it has very low toxicity levels, and they were saying it's safe and effective. Well, who is this person? Where are the environmental impact studies? No one's seen any. No one knows who these people are. Like, it's just complete BS. So you've really got to question, what is really behind this? Who is really profiting from this? What is the real agenda behind this? Because we know what we're seeing on the surface, the propaganda. We are not buying the propaganda. We're not buying it. I mean, maybe we can be hoodwinked once, maybe twice, but, people are starting to wake up and they're starting to speak up, which is really good news, right? More people are stepping up, speaking up, and sharing the word around this, because we can all do something. Just take a few seconds and share this video, for example, or share one of the stories from Channel 9 or B105 or Triple M. There's been other media that have also supported. 94.1 were very supportive here on the Gold Coast. So the independent media and some of the media have been supportive. We do believe Channel 7 might have been compromised because they were going to do the story, and then suddenly they decided not to do the story, right, in the last minute. And we've had a change of people that have come into Channel 7 as well. So, look, we don't know fully what's going on behind the scenes there, but we do know that the minute that Channel 9 story came out a few weeks ago, suddenly these trolls came out of the woodwork, these people with locked accounts, people who just call themselves, and they're attacking, and they're actually, some of them are actually even in Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program Facebook group. Some of them have even infiltrated in there, and what they're doing is they're trying to get a lot of division. They're trying to discredit what we're saying, and so this is how we know that we're on the right path. This is how we know, with all the fact checkers that came out of the woodwork through the pandemic, checkers that suddenly, say this goes against community standards. Well, how can any information go against community standards when we're informing and empowering people with information that goes against the propaganda of the mainstream media? We need to have alternative points of view, and now we are the media. People are, getting photos and videos, and this is one of the best things, right, Sarah? Actually, back to you on this, on when these guys come to your property, or when you see any evidence of helicopters or anything like that, get your phone out, right? What do you say around that, Sarah?
Yeah, and we're telling everyone, record every single interaction you have with these people, because then we've got evidence of what is being said. We have people they're now taking the police to some people's properties and using that as intimidation. Now, under the Biosecurity Act, under Section 336, I think it is, you're allowed a reasonable excuse to obstruct their entry. And what they're doing is they're turning up the police saying, oh, if you obstruct us, we're going to arrest you. Well, we've had a lawyer working with us, Peter Pham. He's the only independent human rights lawyer in the whole of Australia. He's done some amazing work with COVID as well and mandates. But he actually has written a letter to the Commissioner of Police in Queensland to say, what are you doing in terms of monitoring what your officers are doing in terms of threatening to arrest people? Because what is a reasonable excuse? Now, the program is saying we get to decide what a reasonable excuse is, but every lawyer we've spoken to said they should not act as judge and jury on this. It should go to a magistrate or a judge, at least a judge really, to deem what somebody's reasonable excuse is. They should not act as judge and jury. So we're telling people, if they come to your property and they're intimidating you and they're threatening you with, $18,000 fines or whatever they're wanting to charge, nobody has been fined. So people need to go, okay, you need to leave my property. I don't need to give you my reasonable excuse. And if you want a reasonable excuse, you need to tell me where I need to provide that reasonable excuse and who's going to judge it, because it's not up to you guys that come to my property today to tell me that because I've got an illness or a sick pet or anything, that is not your job to deem my reasonable excuse. That needs to be independently assessed. So they're just using bullying, intimidation, coercion. I mean, look what happened during the pandemic. All these people were threatened with fines of hundreds of dollars for not wearing a mask, for not checking in or whatever. Most of them got thrown out of court. When they actually went to court, they threw them out. So if somebody is willing to take this to court, we would try to back them as much as we could. That's why we want to raise the money. We want an independent association. We want to be able to protect our members so if they do get challenged and they get taken to court, we can help pay their legal costs. We can get them legal representation. If we stand together, we're strong. If we're just me on my own, then we get picked off one by one. And that's what they rely on. And this is why the program is so just underhand. I had one guy say to me, "Oh, I'll come and talk to you at your property and you at your property. We'll talk to you individually." It's like, I don't want you to talk to us individually. You talk to us as a group, because you come on our property with 15 people, while there's one person at home, and they don't want us being a group. Because I actually went with a group of locals to one property, and I said to them, "What are you doing here? Do you realize your permits don't allow you to do what you're doing?" And the guy actually said, "Oh, you're intimidating me, and I'm feeling threatened by you being here because you're filming me and you're in a group." And I'm like, "Well, you do that to us on a daily basis. You come to our house, you're filming us, you bring in the police, and you're worried because you got a few locals asking your group." I mean, they ended up all leaving in the end. It was quite funny. We were just asking questions, and they all just said, "Oh, you're making us uncomfortable. We got to leave." And I'm like, "Well, that's how you make us feel." So
I think that's exactly what should have happened. So them leaving basically shows that they know that they're in the wrong, and so of course they left because they knew that they were in the wrong. But that goes to show that when you stand firm and you stand up and you stand under the rights that you know that you have and you don't move, they're eventually going to stand down.
Yeah, exactly. Standing. Yeah, it's like when they said to wear the mask, and if you knew to say "I'm exempt," those two words, "I'm exempt," right? If you knew to say that, which you could have gone to a doctor. Now, some doctors were giving certificates for this, some weren't, but there were people that were, and I got a certificate saying that I felt depressed every time I wear a mask and it wasn't good for my mental health, and they gave me a certificate. And then from that point forward, I never wore a mask again. I'm exempt is all you need to say. So just having that knowledge of those two words, right, can make the world of difference, right? So actually standing your ground, get informed, get empowered. And that's where power in numbers, Sarah, absolutely. Because the whole thing about this control, how do you control the people? You divide and rule, right? You have them living in fear, right? We've seen this again and again and again. And we're not buying it. We need to rise above from the fear. We need to come to a place of love. We need to come to the super consciousness, the higher consciousness, the God consciousness, source energy, which is within and all around us that they've been trying to dumb down for years through the fluoride in our water supplies. They're trying to dumb people down, calcifying our pituitary gland, our third eye. Right, all these ways of dumbing people down, poisoning the food, so that the microtoxicity that will come from this will be absolutely massive. And you wonder why we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker as people. And Ken, I'm sure, can speak much more into this. Why are we getting so sick, Ken? What is it with these pesticides and with what's going on in America as well? How bad is it right now? to
It's
the health.
it's definitely bad. It's just like, um, and that's one of the reasons why I've launched the powerful boot camp that I have. And Aldwyn, you've been through that. And the thing about it is people have been so hypnotized by this food industry, thinking that they're buying stuff healthy because it's being advertised as healthy. The front of the box or the front of the package looks good. They're saying all the things that they know that people want to hear. They're showing all the things that they know that people want to see. And people are heartfelt, like really making a heartful effort, trying to make good, healthy decisions for their family. And really, in reality, all they're doing is buying into the hypnotic marketing that's on the front of the box. And the companies are banking on the fact you're going to go to the grocery store, you're in a hurry, you've got kids, you're not going to want to turn anything over, you're not going to want to discover the truth because you just don't have time. They're banking on that. And that's the thing. That's exactly one of my passions is helping to dehypnotize people. Client after client after client after client that's been through my boot camp, especially when I get to the part where we're looking at examples of how when I've been at the grocery store, photos I've taken of the front of things and the back of things. I'm watching it. This is actually the moment that I enjoy because I'm watching it happen as I'm showing them. They're going, oh, I never saw that before. Oh my gosh. I didn't know that they were doing. How can they get away with advertising that? How can they're being dehypnotized. And they're leaving me never the same ever again. And they will never be the same ever, ever again. And that's why it's so powerful. And I'm going to say this word. I made damn sure when I created that boot camp that it was deep enough, impactful enough to hit home. So much so, Aldwyn, you teared up during my boot camp. Overwhelmed. You were overwhelmed. You teared up. You're just like, I can't believe this.
It's horrible. The way we've been lied to is absolutely horrible. And so we've got the sickest people that we've ever had, right? We've got the most money going into healthcare and pharmaceuticals and the sickest populations out there than ever before. But the thing is, we don't know until we know, right? We don't know until we know this stuff. And many people I've talked to about, what's happening with the fire ant program. Most people I speak to got no idea. They'll probably get this poison in the mail and think, oh, yeah, because the brochure says you should put it in your yard even if there's no fire ants because they could be under the ground and because, a lot of people still watch mainstream TV and they're going to believe what the government says, right? Yet there's others that will question things because they have been red-pilled. They've seen the other side. They've seen the smoke and mirrors. They've seen the lies. And this is partly why we started Total Truth Show, because we were sick of the lies. Whether it's the food industry, the media industry, whatever it is, there's been lies upon lies upon lies. You wonder why people have trust issues, right? You wonder why people have trust issues. So the thing is look, your boot camp's very powerful, Ken, and there's a lot people can do to get empowered. Watch Food Inc. Food Inc. INC, 2 words. Food Inc. It's free online. There's a Food Inc. 2 that's come out now. I saw it for the first time the other day. Someone said, Aldwyn, you've got to see Food Inc. And I'd heard about it over the years. But it's one of those things. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll get around. I'll watch that eventually one day. And the other day I thought, right, I'm going to make time. I'm going to watch Food Inc. And, oh, my gosh, it will blow your mind. I tell you what, once you watch Food Inc., you're never going to look at food the same way again, particularly if you eat chicken or beef. You're really not going to look at it the same way again when you look at what's happening to the animals in the meat industry. Oh, my gosh, it'll blow your mind. And, of course, Monsanto talked about the genetically modified food and how the farmers are being persecuted. Very, very interesting. Once you know this, there's no unknowing, right? Once you know. Mm-hmm. And then if you share the love, see, now we're sharing it here. We've got more people joined us here on Instagram. Hello, Linda Morrison, Ageless Body Formulas joined us. Country Mama, I-45 Sean, good to see you. Nebabarino, hello. However you say your name, We Robot 2024. Good to see you guys on Instagram. Let us know, what are you getting from this conversation right now? And what tips do you have for those who might be a little bit closed off to the truth or a different perspective to what we might be seeing in the mainstream media?
One thing I want to add to here, and then I know we do need to wrap up. And So I've really got to add this. So I'm going to read this quote. It's a little long, but it's quite powerful. And I think that there's a lot of people that need to know this. And then I'm going to give 3 simple solutions to get out of this big food matrix system and to start making more informed and empowered decisions. So here's the quote. In the 1980s and the 1990s, a seismic shift occurred within the American food industry, one that remains largely unrecognized but has had profound consequences for public health. As cigarette smoking began to decline due to growing public awareness of its health risks, the major players in the tobacco industry, R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, sought new avenues for profitability. These companies, facing a declining market for cigarettes, turned their attention to a different but equally insidious industry: food. In the 1980s, these cigarette giants began acquiring food companies. By the 1990s, R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris had become 2 of the largest food companies in the world. This transition was not a matter of diversification. It was a strategic shift in focus. These companies brought with them their expertise in making products addictive, a skilled honed through decades of cigarette production, and applied it to our food. As cigarette sales declined, the scientists and researchers who had once worked on making cigarettes more addictive were reassigned to the food sector. Their new mission was to create food products that people would crave and consume in excessive amounts, and this led to the development and mass production of ultra-processed foods designed not for nutrition, but for addiction, end quote. So, in conclusion, there are three ways out of their system. Number 1, turn the freaking thing over. Number 2, buy things with minimal ingredients. Number 3, better yet, buy things with 1 ingredient. All right, that's it. I'll shut up.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Ken. I've just found some more gold in this letter that Dr. Joshua King, the professor, wrote here. He says, to whom it may concern. So, and it concerns all of us right now. So I'm going to read this bit here as well. He says that it's important to note that the National Fire Ant Eradication Program in Australia has significant shortcomings of a pesticide-only approach to managing fire ants. He says a particular concern is a lack of inclusion of any approaches that mitigate non-target pesticide impacts in schoolyards, recreational areas, human food production agroecosystems, hay production agroecosystems, in close proximity to aquatic ecosystems of all types, certified organic agroecosystems, and in sensitive ecosystems where pesticide applications are neither desirable or in some cases are not permitted. Through my work, he says, on the method and technology required to make the system effective, low pressure hot water mound injection has now become an effective, entirely non-toxic alternative to pesticide applications for fire ant management that can be used as a standalone management tool or as a complement to baiting programs to help reduce the pesticide burden as needed. I encourage the program consider the supporting materials that he has provided and to work to integrate the technology and method into the broader fire ant management toolkit. So there you go. Hot water will kill fire ants. We do not need to be blanket putting poison everywhere over the whole of Australia to kill fire ants that aren't even a problem anyway. You know, most animals I come across, insects, they mind their own business. I actually have a wasp nest on my balcony and I have got the wasps to one side. I just watch them do their business. They don't come and attack me like they do in the movies. There's none of the business going on. They just mind their own business. Like most animals, most insects, they just go about doing their thing. You don't annoy them. They're not going to annoy you. The biggest pest we've got right now is the Australian government and what's going on behind the toxic fire ant eradication program, and who is behind the Australian government that is really, working behind the scenes with all of this. That's the real issue here that we need to
100%.
dig out of the woodwork and really question, follow the money trail, as they say in the Thrive documentaries, right? You want to know what's going on, follow. Yes, Sarah.
Just one thing that I haven't mentioned so far is the reason they're so keen to keep calling it eradication. They know, anyone who's sensible knows you cannot eradicate these ants. But if the government calls it eradication, they get all this extra funding from the Commonwealth and the other states. So they've spent over $1 billion to date, and another 590 billion is in this current program. 90% of that funding comes from the Commonwealth and other states. So Queensland only pays 10%. And when Queensland pays that 10%, they're also then getting paid to run the program. So effectively, it's just a huge employment program. It's good for the economy because all this money's coming in, but it's nothing, in my opinion, other than money laundering. It's just a way of just shifting money into Queensland. And the chemical companies as well, there's iffy stuff going on with that. One of the suppliers of one of the chemicals is also the government. So the government supplies the chemicals to itself and somehow is the supplier. And so it's all about the money. This is not about eradicating ants. This is not about protecting Australians from fire ants. You can never get rid of these ants. They've been poisoning some areas 11 times and the ants are still there. So these poisons don't work. We need the hot water methods to deal with the areas that do have high infestations. I'm not saying that we do nothing, but I'm saying just focus on the areas where we got the ants. It'll become like cane toads. They're annoying. They're everywhere, but we just adapt. And so this new propaganda they've just put out saying 6 people will die from fire ants. That's absolute rubbish. In the US to date, only 80 people have died from fire ants, and they've been there over 100 years. You've got more chance of being struck by lightning than dying from a fire ant. The same thing 100%. Is in the States. 75 people on average die a year from bee stings in the States, but nobody goes, oh, well, let's kill all the bees. And again, just coming back to the bees, those native bees, there are no studies done on native Australian bees. So like the blue-banded bee that lives in the ground that has all the chemicals absorbing into the soil, they live in that soil. I mean, they're going to be affected. And so it's absolutely horrendous what they're doing to the bees and all the other insects.
Sarah, I know that you've got to go very soon. So Aldwyn, we should probably close up and give her the chance to head off to the appointment that she has coming up.
Yes, in about 13 minutes. So we need to wrap up in the next 30 minutes. So I just want to say here, Marissa Adams here on Facebook says, spot on, Sarah, corruption at its finest. Thank you for that, Marissa. And we have Sandy Kelly here on Facebook. Monsanto has Gates and Hillary Clinton behind them. Yeah, how interesting. And if you look up Pizzagate, then you'll see the Clintons are right behind Pizzagate and all the pedophilia and all of the sexual assault and child sacrifices and all that stuff. This is real stuff. It's not just in the movies. And interesting, Julian Assange was so persecuted for releasing that information about Pizzagate. Why is the person who reveals the truth getting persecuted? It's absolutely outrageous. And, in my eyes, Julian Assange is an absolute hero. And so you've got to question, why is information being censored? Why is there so much censorship? Why are these fact checkers coming out? I am a huge stand for freedom of information, and that comes with us empowering ourselves, getting the photos, getting the videos when we see some things that are happening that we're not happy about, and actually being a stand and working with community as we are here and coming together as an empowered force together in power in numbers, right? Power in numbers and being a stand, because as I say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Sarah, what else can we share about this to help enlighten people around what's going on?
Well, like I said, we've just got to stand together and stand up for our rights here, because our rights are being just gradually taken away one by one. First of all, it was a mandated injection. Now it's a mandated poisoning of our land. We've just got to push back and say we've had enough. Like, we don't need big daddy government to monitor us every inch of our lives. And, at the end of the day, these are ants, and people need to just, put it into perspective. They're ants. They're annoying. Most ants are annoying too. Most ants will bite you if you stand on their nest. All I know is that you've literally got to really disrupt the nest for them to even want to come out. So I think we just need to calm down, put it into perspective. People need to do their research, look at the permits, look at the safety data sheets. These chemicals are not good. We don't want them on every inch of land, and we don't want government officials forcing their way onto our private properties, which is our last safe haven for many of us. Our homes are our safe haven. So to not even feel that we can be in our own properties, because what concerns me is the next time there's a pandemic, what are they going to do? They'll come into our properties and forcibly vaccinate us. That could be, if they're allowed to get away with this, it just needs to, we just need some common sense. We need to do our research. Most of the research we've done is already on our Facebook page, on our website. So, we've cut out a lot of we've done the hard yards in looking at it. So people, and we just want people to approach us and say, help donate money into our crowdfunding. It costs a lot of money. I spent $4,000 on getting those water tests from Sanford. We've spent hundreds of dollars on lawyers already, and and then we're doing all our signs and brochures. It all costs money, and so if people could contribute to our crowdfunding, and when we set up our association, please join as a member, because then we can protect everyone under that umbrella.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. And there are petitions, of course. Would like to explain these petitions here that we've got up on screen?
Oh, yeah. We have the Queensland petition, and anyone under the age of 18 can even sign that one. So get your kids to sign it, but you've got to be living in Queensland for that petition. But we also have a change.org petition. Anyone can sign that one. I think we've got over 7,000 signatures on that one. So we just want as many people to support us with the petitions, the crowdfunding, and buying our signs, and just keeping in touch with us, sharing their adverse reactions as well. We do have an online report that you can fill out. Let us know if you don't hear any more frogs. Let us know if your bees dies. Let us know if your dogs are sick. We've had the vet actually even verify he's seen and saw and treated a number of very sick dogs, and that's an actual vet at Currumbin who's spoken out about that. So, but we need to tell these people what is going on, because if we don't report it, everybody thinks, oh, it's all fine. But report your adverse reactions to us as well, so we can collect it and collect affidavits. So when we end up with a class action, which is what we hope down the line, or to get an injunction, we've got all the evidence there for us.
Yes, wonderful. And look, the other thing with all of this is the side effects that are going to happen on a mental level for a lot of people. Now, we saw through COVID, there were actually 4 times the suicide rates through the whole pandemic. We have about 1 million people worldwide take their own lives normally, annually. So 4 times that through that whole period. And now, as people have just come out the other side of that now, and this actually rolled out, interestingly, right after the pandemic kind of quietened down, then suddenly the fire ant program came out, right? So it's just like it's like a war right now. This is absolutely a mental, emotional, physical, spiritual war going on right now. Whether you are conscious of it or not conscious of it, this is what's going on. So as more and more people's dogs die, as they get more and more sick, people are starting to wake up more, because it's affecting us on a much closer level. It's affecting our families and our homes. And if we don't do something now to stop it in southeast Queensland, where they're currently poisoning us, this is going to be rolled out Australia-wide by 2027. That's the plan, right? So we want to be stopping it now. We want to get on top of it now and say, hey, enough is enough. You've poisoned enough. In fact, people need to be really held to account who are behind this. This is absolute. This is killing fields. This is absolute killing fields, what is going on. And we need to say, please explain who's behind this, who's profiting from this, what's really going on here. Ask the questions, get informed, get empowered, join the community, come along to the Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program.org. Check out the website there, stopthetoxicfireantprogram.org. Also the Facebook page, Facebook group we've mentioned, which is Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program, a Facebook group as well. In there, there'll be lots of information. Lots of people are speaking up about how they're getting sick, their animals are getting sick, etc. Now, we have heard of people flying kites over their property to stop the helicopter. I don't know how effective that is exactly, but we're looking into some ways. How do you stop the helicopters? Any ideas around that, Sarah?
There's been some suggestions to do helium balloons on very long bits of string. Anything to we also had some residents paint very large signs to put on their acreage to say no poisons on our land, that the helicopter pilot can see from the sky, to keep sending the message that they're not wanted here. The kite thing would be good. Obviously, it depends on how windy the day is, but we think to be a disruption. Really, we don't want. They're telling everyone they've got only 1% of the population is protesting this, and that's just not true. There are so many people that aren't happy with this, but it's a bit like COVID. People are too frightened to speak up, or they're just going, oh well, what can I do? Well, join the group and speak out, because it's a nonsense what they're doing, and we got to tell them they can't keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. Totally.
I'm just sorry as well. I just want to mention I'm talking at Byron Bay on Monday with Lynn Sutherland. Lynn Sutherland's who did the documentary on pesticides, and she's doing a showing of her documentary there. If people want to come, there's tickets that can be ordered as well. You can find links on Stop the Toxic Fire Ant page as well. And if anybody wants any talks done in their communities, I'm happy to go and talk to the communities. I've done about 15 so far. And if people want to set something up, I'm happy to go with my PowerPoint presentation and have a chat to people.
Yeah, wonderful. I know Murwillumbah had a get-together the other day as well. What's this event in Byron Bay? Is it a community group putting this together, or what's happening?
It's an organised event. I'm not sure the name of the host, but it's like I said, I've got all the details on our Facebook group, and you can get tickets in advance from there. Yeah.
So just go in there, guys. Stop the Toxic Fire Ant Program group on Facebook. Now, Sarah, wrapping up, do you have a favourite quote or motto that you live by that you'd like to share with us today?
Mainly at the moment, I've been just using the quote, follow your heart and speak my truth. And I don't know if that's attributed to anyone in particular, but I am just following my heart and speaking my truth. And that's what's keeping me going at the moment.
Well, you're absolutely amazing, Sarah. It takes a lot of courage to step up and speak up, and I acknowledge you for the work you've done, because you have made a massive impact and a massive difference. And yes, the trolls will come out attacking people who speak up. That's how it goes. You're going to have your lovers and haters no matter what goes on in the world. And Trump is a perfect example of someone who has been one of the most persecuted politicians of all time, and yet he just keeps on going, doesn't he? You've got to admire that resilience. You've got to admire that. Tasha says here, thank you for all your effort. Thank you, Tasha Powers, Havenwood. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those who have joined us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Sandy says, thank you, Sarah. Well done, everyone. Thank you so much. Please share the love. Please share this video. Put some comments in. Check out some of the things in the Stop the Toxic Fire Ant program. Before we do go today, though, Ken, how can people connect with you?
You can connect with me through www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. And in that, you're going to find 4 links. At the top of the list, you're going to find the link to join my boot camp. I've already given a couple plugs in here around my boot camp and how powerful it is. So I'm giving away my 3 secrets to help you finally lose that 20 pounds, to help you stop unhealthy food addictions, to help you break those sugar addictions, those hunger issues, all of that, all in through 3 short one-on-one sessions with me. You'll be equipped with an empowered mindset. You're going to be equipped to be able to spot the industry lies and see past all of that and avoid the common pitfalls, you'll be equipped to see past the marketing deceptions that this industry uses, putting it all over their packaging, making you think that what you're buying is healthy. I help you see through all of that, and you get to exit out on the other end empowered, never seeing food the same way again. All of that right now is going for $75, but that price is not going to last. My mentor and coach is actually making me raise my boot camp by the end of the year. So if I were you, I would jump in now. Don't wait. Get ahead of everybody else so that when the new year comes, you're quite a few steps ahead of everyone else who's just starting their journey in the new year. So jump aboard on that. So that's the first link you'll see. You'll see another one where you can connect with me, book a free connection call with me. Maybe you've got some questions. I would love to talk to you. Give me that opportunity. Thirdly, there's a link in there to connect with me on Facebook. And fourth, there's a link in there to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. And my quote of the day, and I am very proud to use this quote today, especially because my hero is back into office. So this is a quote from him. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation, by Donald J. Trump.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ken. And for those who want to connect with me, hop along to my YouTube channel. You'll find all sorts of great content there. We've had over 277,000 views now across all the videos, 1,300 videos or so in there. So check it out. We've got everything from amazing, long, inspiring interviews on Media Queen TV to reels to comedy to a whole lot of cool stuff, and some content there that will definitely help wake you up to what's going on in the world. So check out my linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. And through my media business, we help people be seen, heard, and known amongst the noise, and help you package up your message and your genius and get out there through mass media exposure. So if you're interested in that, then I suggest book a call with me. We've got a link in my calendar there in my link tree, which has limited times that you can book in. So if you want to have a chat about how you can get out there and be seen, heard, and known, to speak your truth and to listen to your heart, as Sarah has said today, then let's connect there. And all my other social links you'll find in there too. We do ongoing events as well on helping people build their brand and their profile. So if you want to find out about that, then follow me on Eventbrite and follow me on Humanitics, and you'll get all our event updates, our meetup groups, etc. It's all on there. Go check out the links on linktree/Aldwyn. Now, the quote I will share, I really love this quote, and this actually was from Dolores Ibarruri in 1895 to 1989 is how long Dolores lived, and it was from a speech in Paris done in 1936. It is better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. It's better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. And another great quote I'll share today, a bonus one today, is by Margaret Mead. It's one of my favorite all-time quotes. A small group of thoughtful people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. A small group of thoughtful people. And if you're tuning in right now, I would say you are amongst that small group of thoughtful people. So let's share the love, get the word out there, let more people know. Everyone you let know, they'll let 5 people know. So let's really get it out there. Let's help stop the Australian government from poisoning Australia, poisoning our animals, poisoning us and our families. It's time to step up, to stand up, and to speak our truth about this, and to come together in unity, and to come together from a loving place and a peaceful and powerful place without being forceful. Okay, we can be peaceful and powerful. Big difference between power versus force with all of this. And I get that sometimes we're going to get angry, we're going to get frustrated when we hear some of this information, and it's so important that we get empowered to then raise our vibration, to come to a place, get informed, so that we can come to a place where we can share more love, more gratitude, joy, because it's still a beautiful world, regardless of the evil, forces out there. There's been evil forces from the beginning of time, no doubt till the end of time there will be evil forces, and will also be a lot of light forces and a lot of beautiful, beautiful people, angelic forces that are doing amazing work for the planet and for the environment, etc. Thank you so much, everyone who's joined us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Thank you, Jay, Neil Barbarino, We Robot, Melanita, Sean, Country Mum, Linda. Good to see all you guys. Simon, Robert, White Frenchie, Bella, Guarded Body, Natalie King, everyone else who's joined us. Thank you so much for joining us. Any final words, Sarah or Ken?
Oh, no, just it's been great to chat with you guys, and yeah, just raising the awareness is what we need right now, and having more awake people. So
yes, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Sarah. And Ken, any final words from you? His face has just gone off the screen. There we go. Oh, headset.
Jeez. I knocked my headset off and then I couldn't
there
get
we
it.
Go. There we go. Any final words from you, Ken, before we wrap up?
No, it's I'm good. Just stand up. Just stand up, stand firm, stand strong. And if you have a difficulty with standing up, then grab some people of the same mind and group together and be more of a powerful force.
Yes, we're definitely not alone in this. And one thing I'm really grateful for through all the pandemic, I have met some amazing people. In fact, this show wouldn't have even started if it wasn't for the pandemic. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the difference that we are all making, coming together and empowering ourselves and each other with this information. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for being our guest. Thank you, Ken. We'll see you back on Total Truth Show very soon. Make sure you like our Facebook page and check out Spotify and the podcast online as well. And BitChute and Rumble and all the other great places. All right. Be the change you wish to see in the world. We'll see you next time on Total Truth Show. Bye for now.